Okay, let's go with that. So, no camera today because for some reason it thinks that my face needs investigating in small detail because I cannot get the zoom to go anywhere but super close in on my face. Um, so yeah, we'll skip the cameras in the name of getting the stream working. So I think the camera helps, especially with my more um, distracted moments. Because then people can at least see that I'm still there and just not paying attention as much as I should do. So anyway, let's see if we can get started on this. So over the last couple of days, I've been tinkering with different technologies. I've been playing with Akka and Kafka, a bit more Kafka streams, and I think Kafka streams, knowing that this is available to me, is a very valuable thing. Being able to split streams or manipulate streams in any way, shape, or form, um, is going to be something that is good to have in the tool belt. And the fact that this person has created this library is awesome. I don't know why Confluent themselves haven't produced a streams library at this point. Unless they haven't, I don't know about it. But anyway, so I did a bit more work on the Akka stuff after stream yesterday to try and understand, you know, make sure I solidified this flow, and I got it working. Basically, I'd been sending the wrong events, etc. Um, so in this case, if I say publish new actor and I go and try and get the actor, I go and try and get the thing again. This might be a bit wasteful, but we'll see. But I've got to imagine this could be pulled out of sequence. So it being able to get the state again and validate is probably a good idea. But basically, what this is going to do is say, okay, well, I definitely don't have it. Actually, go and I need to actually now store a planning item in there based upon the data, and this will store the current version. And then if not, if I don't have it and I thought I should, then I'm going to publish that message back to the root, um, to the sender. I'm going to say, hey, by the way, just do this again, which should then result in this being there and then going to an update. Right. Um, Sally, hello, how you doing? In the update, again, I go and get the item, and if the planning item is null, so I don't have it, then um, we're gonna send it back and say, no, uh, you're telling us to update, but we don't actually have the item, so it should be new. So I I I, I think as I gain understanding of these technologies, this will become a little bit more apparent what I can and should do. But we'll see. And then again, this is going to test to see if the last updated that we have, right? We need to check the last updated. If the last updated of the current planning item is greater than or equal to the message last updated, i.e., we're processing the same event, or we are processing an event that's older than the one we're currently processing, older than the current version we have, then skip anyway and just let go of this message entirely. Right. Morning, one line. How you doing? So this got me into the realm of, okay, now I need to go and compare the changes because now the entire purpose of this piece is to go and figure out the changes. Um, and it got me thinking because something actually you said. yesterday one line when I was asking about why you need deep clone or whatever, and you were on about the changes, and it got me thinking about, do I lose something by not having my main application code push changes? Because it's a relatively simple thing to do, right? At the application code level, and it's worth thinking through the scenarios and that I understand so far as to whether it's a use case that I actually need. Um, and does it hurt me to build these um, does it hurt me to build these changes out of the regular process? So I was thinking about that. And well, I tried to sleep in since it's a holiday. I also worked a little over an hour longer yesterday because of the server issues. Oof. Well, I hope they got resolved. Sleep in. Hmm. I I fell asleep on the sofa last night, so I have got a horrible headache today. Although I think that's because I didn't have coffee yesterday. What I had that was coffee yesterday was more milk than coffee, so I think I'm lacking caffeine. But I honestly wish I could sit and work on this all day now. They did. Live coding called it. The root CA certificate expired and all certificates it signed to. Oh, I I have had the fortune of not playing around with certificates too much. Um, or misfortune. It could be an education, right? Um, so every time I come near certificate stuff, I have to learn all over again what I'm doing. Um, but you've got a signing server, and yeah, that's that's a mess. I wish I could also say that I've never seen companies fail to renew certificates and what happens when that happens. But I've seen it all too many times because it happens all the time. Delta, good morning. How are you doing? Vacation today and tomorrow. Nice. Nice. You work for a US company, don't you? Although our company only it's only the fourth to US employees, yeah. Monday was my holiday. Ah, yes. It took me a bit to remember, yeah, that learn again. But the documentation I wrote helped me create new certs. I really needed a better reminder to renew the certs before they expire. It's a much simpler process. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get a Canadian holidays. Yeah, your Independence Day was the first, right? Or Canada Day or whatever it's referred to. Yeah. As a British person who became an American, I I don't know how to feel about holidays that celebrate breaking away from the British. Okay, so yeah, apologies for no camera. The camera's off because for some reason it was super zoomed into my face, and I figured you didn't want to look at my eyeball for most of the stream. So I, I, I I don't know why. I tried to zoom out, it didn't work, so I'm gonna have to tinker with the camera. But I figured a super intimate camera was not the feeling I wanted to go for on stream. Okay, so changes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and write some code to calculate the difference between and I'm tempted to compare the incoming integration event against the planning item rather than convert to a planning item first and then do the event, So I'm trying to consider how might I compare apples to oranges. Well, no, it's it's two different types of apple, I suppose. They are the same apple. Found out the gym is 100 a week for 2 times training sessions. Pretty tempted. Training session, guided training sessions, i.e., with someone giving you a assistance. Nice. If you're if you're just kind of going in and using the gym equipment and not really getting the most from it, that would give you a the way I take that sort of stuff is that gives you the motivation because you're spending good money on it, right? So you're spending thousands of dollars a year on it. Um, they will teach you how to use the equipment properly. They will give you a more guided workout regimen, and it will help you, you know. So, yeah, that's why with karate, when I walked into karate, I was like, I want to sign up, and they're like, do you want to do the trial? And I said, no, I'll sign up for a year. I'll guarantee I'll do it for a year. And because I know that if I lock myself into something, I'm more dedicated to it. I'm more focused on it. I know it could be just the money, but it's more. I've made a commitment. I'll go for it. So, and then you're just wasting your money if you choose to quit on that. If I lock into that and don't spend it, I'll probably be too livid to go through it. So yeah, okay. So what we're gonna do with changes, I'm going to create an object that takes two, or I'm going to create a class that takes two entities, a source and an input. If they are the same, right, then I'll just compare them based upon that. So we're going to work on that first. So apples to apples, we're going to compare first. And obviously we have to go deep enough so there's relationships in here, but there shouldn't be too many nested relationships, right? And the idea of these objects, the entities that I'm integrating are, if there's any related objects, I should be linking out to the related objects. I shouldn't be creating massive nested chains of data because that's not the purpose of this, right? Um, so um, the planning item integration event has associated projects, which are GUIDs. So if those GUIDs change, then one of them changed, right? Um, the I think the requirements are the only things that are nested currently that are more involved, and those will be those I want to pull out anyway. Yeah, I want to remove them at some point anyway because um sorry, I'm just trying to update something. So yeah, the nested entities in here aren't going to be too complicated that I can't just navigate simply down a little bit. So again, one line, it kind of got me thinking about what you were saying yesterday about changes, and I am making this more complicated by doing it this at this point as a separate component of the system. So rather than say, oh yeah, at the root, I will give you the changes. So why would I do that? And why would I not do that if it's probably simpler, right? So if I build this code right now and I say, okay, well, I compare source to input, right, and give me the list of changes out of that, I still don't have enough information to produce effective changes because each entity in the system, don't you fail, um, each entity in the system only has the data it needs. So planning item, I don't have those projects. I don't have the um, ultimately I won't have attachments or names, etc. Right? Actually, that's okay. We're gonna, I think we're gonna re-enable that. There we go. So I don't have enough information to produce effective changes um, from from the source entity. So yes, I know about what's changed, but I don't know enough about what's changed to produce a change from the thing here. So doing it in this component here will allow me to collect all the other information as well. So I will have projects and stuff. So once I produce the change, um, I've got to put context on that change. So if I say, oh, a planning item, the associated project changed. Well, I don't know that associated project. I've got to wait for that project to become available in here. So changes needs to consume the data as well and store the data basically as lookups in this context, right? So again, maybe I'm making the system a little bit more complicated, but I'm allowing myself to specialize the data. I'm allowing myself to provide um, how do I put this? Provide. That's where I'm stuck. I'm consuming all this data together. I'm giving myself the ability to provide more context to these change events that I wouldn't be able to do if I was producing them from within the entities themselves. Well, apparently I didn't send the thing about the way I use change tracking. Since my primary use case is for users to know what they are edited and to be able to undo one change at a time using event sourcing. So that's a yeah. Um, I understand the use case there. And in this event, in this case, yeah, and I did validate. I kind of used your what you did say and what I understood of what you said as validation to at least question my design, right? Which is good. It's healthy. It's always healthy to make sure you validate your use cases and validate your design and don't just proceed with a design because you're stuck on it, right? Event sourcing is something I've considered um, as well. And for my entity stores, my planning items, my tenant management, my attachments, etc. So event sourcing. So if you think about um, yeah. So event sourcing is instead of Where is it? So if I go into planning item, you see how I produce these domain events, right? Right. If you think about event sourcing as using those events to build the state of the object, instead of actually sending the data into the object, you send events into the system, and each event stacks. But you can also, and it stores the events. So the current state of the object is the sum of the events that happen against it, right? So you can get everything that changed in between, because all you're doing is storing the events. You're not storing the object itself. And you replay all the events that have happened in the right order, right? So again, I do planning item created, then I do attach the project, or I do add a requirement, etc. These are events that occur. They are not changing the state of a data object, so they're just stored events. What you can do is you can snapshot regularly. So once you've got a group of a set of state, you might take a snapshot and use that to play off of rather than having to go back right to the beginning every time. So event sourcing is a really great way of being able to do that replay, because you can just wind back the events, or play up to a certain point and then remove all the events after that, if after that fact. Um, I wonder if materialized views would be used for this, for the snapshots. Um, Materialized views, potentially. The way I've done it in the past is just save that. So there's still a planning items table, and you just snapshot the object, the current state of the object, into that, and that's what you load up to play the events off of. So it has a point in time reference. Um, so in the world of having to store and undo changes to objects, it's a very valuable thing because you have this undo stack. I actually learned about I met at the same event back in 2012, maybe 2011, 2012. I met Greg Young, Eric Evans, Alberto Brandolini, and several others, all at the same event. So I learned about event sourcing, event storming, and got to talk with the guy who wrote the book on domain-driven design, all in this, and I went out for dinner as well, which was pretty fascinating. So that was quite an interesting week. So from a UI perspective, I have a record displayed on the screen. The user changes the value of a field or adds an item to a list for that specific record. Instead of just making changes to the object, I would somehow record what actions they took, such as editing a property. Yeah, you record them as events against the thing, right? So, you'd say, okay, well, added item, removed item, etc. And you track the item that was added and removed, and that's what you'd play back. So when you want to get the current state of the list or the current state of the object, you play back all the events that happened, and it will say, okay, well, now I need to add an item, and now I need to do this. I've done some event sourcing prototyping before, and actually written. I it's one of those patterns, one of those technologies that I have to do to understand a little bit better, and I haven't really attempted to use it. There is actually Greg Young created, as I click around randomly and eventually find something. Um, so Greg Young is also the person we can thank for CQRS. He took the original CQS stuff that was done and kind of evaluate and kind of added on the the responsibility segregation. Um, that'd be the reason I attend the conference. It was quite fascinating. And I wish I'd taken more in. I wish I could have embraced more of that week and asked more questions. Oh, and Von Vernon as well, who's also written books on domain-driven design. What was I going for that? Event Source DB. So Greg Young created a product, Event Store DB. This used to be really, This used to be a very dark screen, so I thought I was safe on this one. Um, so basically, and yeah, yeah, Von Vernon wrote the Blue and Red books. Yeah, that's whose domain-driven design course I went to. Yeah, yeah. So, show me an example. Event store DB, high availability, guaranteed writes. So one of the things I'm concerned with right now is obviously with my pattern is I'm trying to what I'm trying to do is make sure that I'm storing the data I need to store above all else. So I'm not worried about too much other than writing the object to the store, right? Um, Again, this kind of I'm saving an event. Everything else is calculated later, right? Um, I wish I could see developers. Here we go. The stream database built for, of course, code samples are few and far between, right? So getting started. I was hoping there would be a code sample or something, but basically what happens is you just say, hey, here's the event, store the event. And now when you say, hey, what's the current state of my data? You're not saying, I'm afraid going to look a bit later. Okay, Dota, no worries. You're not saying, um, go and load a record from a database. You're saying, go and load these events, then replay them back on top of this object. And then that object is now the current state. So it is a very useful thing. One that maybe one day I can actually fathom how to use effectively. But I think to me, I kind of consider aggregates as an event source sort of use case. So if I was going more into DDD, I might consider aggregates more and then consider event sourcing. But they are mutually exclusive. But anyway, let's get on with it. Let's get on with my current design. Again, I validated this is actually what I want to do. This system will have enough data to make up decisions. So the problem here is first I have to calculate what changed. I don't really get that part. So when I display a record, I have the object sent back from the server. There's more, but I'm losing my train of thought. Um, so if we have public class, this has been a while since I did something like this, but let's widget, right? And it has public int um, uh, public float weight public string name, right? Now, if we just load it, save that into the database, we'd know that its current state is a widget with weight and name. So we can still create var widget equals new widget, name equals mob, weight equals 1.0f, right? So we store that in the database and then we load that in the database. If we change the widget to be 1.4f, right, and save that, we don't know that it was previously 1. We can't do that. So ultimately, what we end up doing is public void update name string name. This is where it kind of gets into the aggregate sort of behavior as well. You might you kind of create a base class How do I do this? I'm trying to write it from memory without actually having done this in a while. But ultimately, what you end up with is you send an event, send um, new update name event, right? And that's actually what you store. So similar to how I'm doing domain events, public class, um, base entity, public IEnumerable, public. Actually, this is a public list, private list of right. We kind of we send the events and the event by virtue of right. It seems really convoluted when you're writing it, but actually when you see it work, it works really well. Maybe I'll go off and do some yeah. Well, so no, so this isn't like the type of editing that we've done in UI and committed to the end of making changes. So if you think about changes being atomic, right? So if you make if you change the name and store that name, you send that that action up to the server, then you send the event to the object and it stores. You kind of play the event. So you'd actually have to track the events to come in and send to the object as well. So that's why I haven't approached this on my stuff. Um, because what this will do is just say name equals event.name, right? That's all that'll do as far as this. So what happens is you kind of load the object up with the event. So you send these, you might call update name from your code, which will then create the event, which will then receive the event and it, yeah. So the event receive, right. So you're making those changes as a group of changes. So if you which you still could do. You could still store them as actual list of changes that were made and send them up to the server. Um, and again, if you were doing it like this, where you say, okay, well, the name changed, okay, call update name. In here, there's nothing to say. You couldn't say if name not equal to name, right? Um, so you could still send up. But yeah, on the client, you can do event sourcing is possible on the client essentially as well. You could because you could do the same thing, right? You're storing a list of events rather than building this sort of object is what the event sourcing part is, right? Um, so you could do that on the client and then you commit the current state. But if you wanted to offer undo later, yeah, I would still prefer to send the final state loaded to the server. Yeah. But you can implement that pattern, that object pattern. So if everything in your UI is in it, and that I think that's kind of like why signal store and stuff is handy to me because I say, hey, apply this change, and it mutates the object. Um, so you could still do that sort of design on the client side, where you say, okay, well, everything's an event, and then what changed, and you could actually see the changes in sequence, and then collapse. Basically, you're doing like a Git squash or a squash commit, right? Here's all the changes I've done. Now squash them. And that's kind of your snapshot of data. But if you have to calculate those changes, recalculate those changes back out, yeah, yeah. So it's a worthwhile pattern to look into if you're in the situation where you have to track user changes and may have to undo them for certain. Okay, reduce the event sourcing on the client side from doing that. I like that a lot. Yeah. Um, again, like I said, I've tinkered with it. I've built demonstration apps of doing event sourcing. I've used Event Store DB a little bit, but I've never really embraced how to apply that into my designs. And that, even for me, that's one step too far right now to try and get my head around, considering the type of data I'm dealing with here, right? Um, I think it's just a bit too much for what I'm doing. Okay, so compare same entity type. So what I need to do here is I need to loop through the properties, because now when they're the same entity type, I know the properties, right? So again, only public instance values need to be checked. Most of them are going to be public instance values. There's no need on the integration events to have anything but that. And I want to go and get the value and compare them. That I believe is wrong. I think that's going to do a reference comparison, and I don't want a reference comparison there. I don't think that's a value equality. So we may have to look deeper at that. But basically, let's just remove that for now, because again, I'm not confident in it. What I now need to do is create a change value, and a change value has the values as they are, but I only know about I change values. So I need to construct a generic change value and pass it in, pass the parameters in. Thanks for talking through that. It would be a good thing to talk about in more detail during your Q&A streams. Unrelatedly, I'm going to step away for a bit to prepare a second cup of coffee. Back in a few. No worries. Yeah, we can, the Q&A stream, the first one that we'll do, I'll do them. I think we'll try and do them regularly. It's definitely a good place to talk about choices. So if anyone's new to the stream, yeah, I'm more than happy to answer questions on what I'm doing, talk about technologies I'm using, and maybe demonstrate the application if it's running right now. Right now, I'm focused on calculating the changes that are coming through the system, in order to create a stream of notifications ultimately. So, how do I build? LinkPad is a tool built by Joseph. Oh, there you go. Joe Joseph Albahari. He created it many years ago, as a way of building, actually as a way of testing Link, because Link was always very difficult to test in place or to tinker with in place. So he built the thing so you can hook it up to a database and actually write link statements in here and get all the tooling for that. And it's just become a very good place for it, rather than going online and using online tools for prototyping code and stuff. I've become very used to LinkPad, and I think it's still worth supporting. So I upgraded my license to version 8. So it's just a good tool with the license. You can get a free version still, but you don't get IntelliSense and stuff, and there's a lot missing. You can't do NuGet packages and stuff. But with this version, I can build full programs, not applications, but I can build full programs in here. And it comes with a lot of tools like for dumping information out on the screen, so you can see tables of data, etc. To close that, I do not risk having my email open. Um, oh, okay. So let's do. What I'm just trying to figure out is there is activated at create instance. Ah, that's how I do it. Yeah. Hold on. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. So playing with generics and playing with stuff like this is never easy the first time. So what I need to do is get a constructor of property type. So that should give me a change value of type int or string or whatever. And then I can do var instance var change value equals constructor dot invoke, and then I can pass it before and after. That just returns. Right. I want that cast to explode if it doesn't work properly. So then what it should do is say, so then we can do var change equals generate change value for type, property dot property type, and then before and after. Let's start naming things properly. Before, after. Right. And then we're going to do, and this is one of the features of LinkPad, this dump method is an extension method that allows me to put information to the screen. So if I say var, let's create a class, public class, actually we'll do widget, public int, public string name, public float, weight, public date time, last updated, and then we'll do var widget equal var before equals new widget, name equals Bob, weight equals 10f, last updated equals date time, UTC now, add days, -7, var after equals new widget, it equals Bob, weight equals 1.2f, add days -5. Okay, so what I want to do now is var change equals new change, widget to widget. I'll probably create overloads of these so it's a little bit more readable, right? And then var changes equals new change equals change dot fetch changes before after. Okay, not all code paths return. Turn no object reference not set to an instance of an object. Oh, because that's just constructor info. Derp. I need to var method equals how do you create a constructor using this way? It's been a while. So what you do normally is you get the info and then you build a method that you then invoke. You can use create instance as well, which might be okay. I know this method is faster. Um, should you have to do this? Yeah. Yeah, generic method. I should have to just invoke the constructor though. Oh, I know why. This was null. It's because the constructor didn't actually get constructed. Change value get constructor property type. There is no constructor for that. That's the problem, right? So if I run that, and again, you get full debugging support in the full version. So property type is a string because it's for name. Doesn't matter what the actual property is here. And before and after are the same. So if I F10, constructor is null because there is no constructor that has. I'm not. I thought that was how you get an instance. Let's not overthink this too much right now. It's another way of doing this. Return I change value activator create instance. Type of change value. It's a way of doing a generic constructor. Let's have a look. Type of T, new object. That doesn't. That's a generic type in terms of add fruit. Uh, it's not. I love all the ideas. Make generic type. That's what I want to do. That's more like what I want to do. Time is now 14:03. I've not yet had breakfast. At a glance, this feels like a bad idea. Maybe we should start with wearing some pants. I don't know how you're doing. Pants are, I mean, they're optional if you if you're walking around on your own, right? Have you messed with .NET Aspire yet? I see a lot of talk about it, but I haven't looked into it. I haven't directly messed with it. If you want to see someone who's um, get into Aspire, the only person I know that's streaming about it, who's just started streaming, is Mojo. My concern with .NET Aspire so far is considering what I've got right now. Adding .NET Aspire adds a lot of framework stuff in, so it means that I have to follow their patterns if I want to integrate properly and benefit from using it. So they have components for Akka, not for Akka, for Kafka, but their libraries are used for Kafka. So all the stuff I've written around Kafka might be at jeopardy. So I'm scared to try it so far. I poked around with it. If you want to see someone poking around it in real time who knows insanely much about it, check out C Sharp Fritz. He works on Microsoft. Yeah, Fritz is a good source for that. Yeah, Aspire is great for microservice dev when using external servers. And I don't disagree with that. What I'm worried about is the dependency, right? So again, they have. So if you look at my stuff, right, I've built a lot of stuff up around Kafka. Um, so I've got, oh, I want to add Kafka. I want to use console. I've got my publish outbots, etc. But if you look at .NET Aspire, um, they have components and they have one for Kafka, but they have all their own opinionated ways of dealing with Kafka. So, including a method called add Kafka, right? Which is, for me, that's a risk because it means that I have to decide, do I want to embrace, because I assume that with using their components, you get the benefit of their dashboard and all that sort of stuff. Um, so, so you can have a Spire app for local dev to connect everything with your dev services. Um, yeah, but again, they're libraries. Uh, they have libraries for dealing with Kafka. So whether I'm using, but and I don't want to use that. So I lose some of the benefits of doing it if I've got custom stuff around it. So that's what scares me the most right now because I've built. That's for the Aspire application though. Yeah, my application uses standard stuff. But if I want to integrate with with Aspire properly, do I do I lose anything? That's the question. It's not that I've looked deep enough for this. It's is there some benefits I'm giving up on of using Aspire um, by not using the components that they provide? So, because again, I've got all this stuff, and I know it doesn't go away. My code is still my code, but I still have to create the right pieces. And also, for me, uh, I've got the service discovery with console in there, so I've got that built in with. Then that's for registering so that I can. I believe you have one line saying use Aspire and then use connection strings, etc. Like that. I think, yeah. I mean, Mojo was doing some stuff the other day, and basically you create a host app, and in the host app you tell it about all the other applications, um, and it then owns running those applications. Like it starts them up and stuff. Um, so I'm interested to see how far Mojo goes. Um, so I can at least ask more pointy questions. But yeah, so Aspire does look like an interesting thing. I like the idea of the dashboard. I like the idea of being able to visualize things very quickly. The deployment aspect is very, yeah, yeah. And I'm assuming, considering the people that are promoting it within Microsoft, like Fowler, etc., um, I know that his side development wouldn't want to have too much control. So I'm just, again, it's just for me at this point in my application development, it is a very scary idea to go through and modify this application if there's much modification needed. So yeah, I do have to figure out the deployment of this soon though. So, and if that's go off and build Kubernetes stuff, can Aspire make that easier? Will be a question I have to answer. Okay, so let me go back to this. Not that one. Okay, instance of generic. Yeah. How do I create a C sharp? How do I create an instance of a generic class? Should have specified that, shouldn't I? There you go. Make generic type. That's what I was missing. I knew there was a um so var generic type of chain value, make generic type type generic type dot. Will that work? My issue being a total and complete cheapskate is that microservices come with hosting costs because each service costs money to have running, even when the usage is abysmal. Yeah, the cost thing, I'd be lying if I didn't say the cost thing was of concern. For my tenant applications, running everything in proc is cheaper than when it doesn't really need anything beyond the app service. Even though hosting some parts of the microservice would be nice, that also means I need another instance running only that microservice, if that makes sense. It does make sense. The cost is something that I've gone through multiple times, or the idea of the cost. Right now, I don't have any idea of. I know it would not be cheap to actually deploy as it stands. I talked through with Deflux very early on, and I know he disagrees with this design. If I wanted to embrace the cloud more, I should use Azure Functions. But I don't have. I have a lot of behavior here. I have a lot of dependencies. I have a lot of things going between. Running your functions on free isn't terribly expensive, but you can expect like minutes in spin up time. Yeah, that would be not acceptable, right? To demonstrate the application, that wouldn't, because what I've got to consider is when I get to this to application to a good point, right? What does it? What is my goal, right? I want to demonstrate this to people. I want to say, hey, this is my application. My apologies for the blinking. Then my monitor was flickering to the side of me, so I unplugged it. You need to have a message broken, things that don't need to happen in real time. Yeah. Yeah, when I get to a good point with this application, I'm gonna have to demonstrate it. And if I have to um uh, yeah, I can't possibly run that in there. So I think my plan as it stands right now is once I have this to a good point, I'm going to spin up a separate box here. And I will have, and I've done it before. I've actually had it use a dynamic DNS service and basically provide a public accessible version uh, through my firewall. Like I've done it before. I've routed it through, so it's um, relatively safe, and then use dynamic DNS um, and host a version on a box here to demonstrate it. And then ultimately try and figure out the cloud deployment aspect of it because it will be difficult. But I think again, to me, this pattern, one of the things that I ruled out early on was building a monolith. Right, I could put everything I've done in here in a single application. I could build one large stack. Um, I just feel that this works better for me as a design from maintenance perspective. It just works. I feel like I have more flexibility than any other application I've written to do what I need to do. So um, type would be property type, right? Var constructor, then That should actually work now. Nope. Still gonna break on me. Oh no, it need a name, that's why. Let's do this. Property info. The info. Let's pass property in there. And then that would be property info dot property type. Type. That's type. That's string type. Type. That's type of. Do we remember how this code works? And then I need property info dot name. Let's go with that. There we go. That's better. So what that's just done is giving me the before and after. So again, before, after, so I can see the differences, right? So I've got a list of change values. Obviously, these are the same, so that can't work. Let's go and put back in. I think this is going to not change anything. So if before dot equals after, or rather, let's write that. If after equals before, continue. No, that works. It does do comparison. I was worried that it would do a reference. I couldn't remember whether that would actually, on being that it thinks they're objects, I was worried that it wouldn't do the actual value equality there, but it looks like it does. So property for property there, we can get, but that's the simplest case, right? That's the everything's nice and easy. Now let's make this more complicated. Public IEnumerable GUID associated. Let's do have there's no auto generate GUID. No. Interactive regex evaluator. Oh wow. Okay. Fair enough. I know he's put in nice. So I can hook in. Nice. So tomorrow at this time, so I'm gonna run from 7, well at least 10, probably a little later. I'm gonna run a Q&A. I'm gonna open up the Discord. Everyone's more than happy or welcome to join. Basically, if there's questions on this, if there's questions about architecture or design in general, if people are joining, we can have a conversation about stuff. I'll try, but I can't promise. Absolutely understood. Be great to have you there. So 2 community days tomorrow. But yeah, we'll give it a try. Can you give me a time offset from now for when you plan to start? So I'll start an hour ago and run for at least another hour and a half. So -1 hour to at least plus 1.5 hours. So from now, and we'll do that. So around this time, but we'll run 3 hours tomorrow. And also, I'm contemplating doing off stream, um, maybe monthly Discord calls as well. Give some opportunities to chat and so tomorrow is about general question chat about architecture, about design. My application obviously is fair game, so if there's any questions or specifics about that people want to know, more than welcome to ask. I don't want to make it about it's not intended to be, I know, yeah, another discussion. I know it's difficult. um it's not intended to be a general, hey, look at my stuff sort of thing. It's more intended to be discussion. Um, yes, we can talk about your architecture. But that's the point, right? It's to discuss our differences, why we might do things differently. So again, using my stuff as a focus, just to be, because it's up on screen and can be, yep, yeah. Language will be as it is on the regular stream. So just as a heads up. um, so no saying the real word there, because I will be streaming. Um, but yeah, it's that's why I want to do that, is so that people like yourself, um, and anybody else interested can jump in and uh, ask questions or pass opinions or do whatever, and we'll see how it goes. Because I get that sometimes it's a little hard to just ask a question on stream, in chat about something without being able to give context. So, and then maybe I'll get back more into active try. But if something slips through, I plead the fifth until the trial. Yeah. So, associated equals. So I need two goods. Link pad. Why can't I do this? There's got to be a GUI generator in here, right? It makes sense. No, there's no new GUI. I know I can go and build a GUID. It's not difficult. What I'm trying to make sure of is that there's no tool inside of LinkPad to do this, because it would be useful. GUID. No. Oh well. Let's just take two GUIDs. Okay. Hold on. Let's just do Let's try something. Let's take that one out. Yeah, okay. It does figure that they're different, right? So the problem there is obviously that they are now nested values, right? So that there's arrays. Um, so it doesn't consider them equal. Um, Interwebs just says open new tab and run a new GUID. Not helpful. Yeah, I suppose that would be. Um, I can do that, and it'll give me that. I could do that. Um, it's already doing that, but yeah, I could do something like that. Thank you, Online. Appreciate it. So now we get into the weeds of comparing nested objects, right? Because now this is treated as not equal because it's two enumerables, even though they're the same value underneath. I now need to compare these. Um, so let's go through if property that property type is enumerable. Let's do it properly. Is equals type of enumerable. Enumerable system GUID. The fun of type comparison. So that might not have been actually visible on screen properly before. So again, if I run that, it knows that weight changed because that's a simple the equality works. It knows that the last update changed because the equality works, right? Um, it doesn't know that these are the same. So again, I'm building up. I'm doing the same type to same type. So what I do when I do this sort of stuff is I kind of just build the code up in the clunkiest possible way. Because this is going to end up with a lot of ifs, right? If it's this, if it's that, if it's this, if it's that, and then try and work out the refined solution because it's not always clean. Um, if actually let's do it this way. So var type equals property dot property type. I think I'm almost like this the way the artists do blocking, then details and refinement. Yeah, it's necessary for property. Okay, so if type dot is class, type dot is generic type, and type dot, there's a way of figuring this out. Base type dot debug. Okay, type dot. Yeah, that's not, it's not a class. Um, type dot dump. Let's do this. There we go. Okay, so you can expand the type, so we can dig deeper into this, so I can figure out what it is. So it is an IEnumerable, so it's an interface. There's no solid class there. Generic type arguments are GUID. System collections. There's a not a base type. There's a underlying system type. That's not it. Is that it? Really? Type of. That doesn't seem right. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Trying to finish up this last bit of stuff before exercise time. Way I may have the rest of the day to focus on more done 8 days. Exercise. It's when you get up to grab the remote to watch TV, right? Okay, so if type dot get generic arguments, does that actually, when does that actually work there? No, debugger.break does not work in here. Type examples. Let me just dump that once more. So what I'm looking at here is the type of this. So is sealed, is public, is value type. Do I want to say is value type is enough to decide? So when I'm doing reflection, I kind of just I like playing with reflection. It's very fascinating to do, but it is something that I normally just kind of work through by feel and then see if there's better ways of doing it once I understand what I'm trying to achieve. So I think what I'm trying to achieve here is determining there is whether I need to dig deeper. Because if this is an object, then I need to go through the list first and compare object to object in the same way I do this. So I basically need to recursively call compare same entity types, right, for the new type. So I need to create a new change, etc. So maybe this is not uh, the way I want it to be. Um, but I'm going to go at it in a dumb way first because the dumb way seems to be the way I'm going to figure those pain points out. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding extra data on um, bit by bit to test my use cases. So I have a narrow set, right? I'm not going to do massively nested objects in these types because that's not the point of what the integration events are going to be. Um, at the most, I'm going to have a nested object in a list, is as far as I can tell. So let's try and focus that path. So basically, var generic argument equals type of type dot get generic arguments not single or default, right? If generic argument, I don't think that's enough, is value type, then how do we loop through that list of objects? I mean, I don't want to say, as I'm dealing with IEnumerable, I don't want to deal with positional differences. So if I add one, remove one, then add it back in, and the original list had that, then it's not really a change. It's still there. The change would be that one was added, obviously. Um, so here I need to get these two values to the actual type. Um, so we have, actually, if after equals before, there's another use case here that I've not accounted for that I need to put in afterwards. If before is null and after is not, or before is not null and after is null, right? If they've changed, I can't compare values on those two objects, right? They class as a change, right? Everything everything is in there. That's essentially creating a new change value. Yeah. So that needs to go. First, we find reasons to get past, and then find reasons to change. And I go get some Thindle feed. It's kind of like bird feed, but worse. No worries, Thindle. I'm good at taking care of living things, so I couldn't do it for you. I'm very good at taking care of this living thing, or rather, feeding this living thing. I wouldn't say taking care of necessarily. Living and being adult is overrated. So what I'm trying to do here is private um, lists. Um, Look, I realized just that my event aggregator doesn't work with events defined as records, by the way. This made me sad. Oh, now I assume it doesn't work because you do some magic in the aggregator. Uh, That feeling of when you've built something and then you go and try and do it a different way and it doesn't work, or you think it should work and you move on and it doesn't actually work the way you intended. So what I need to do here is I need to cast those objects to um this is I change value, compare lists, T, right? What I'm doing I enumerable of T before enumerable of T after is using the generics to get into that, right? So now I have to do it with classes, and my customer's linter goes sad when I pass case variables to a primary constructor. No, it says it works and then it doesn't. Ugh. Hmm. Is that your custom? Is the event aggregator a dogs just went crazy? I have a list. Notification list. It has classes that inherit from that. There's a bunch of classes in the list. Now I tried to add a record to it and it fails, certainly. Might work if I have all my records in it. Ah, custom one. Okay. Actually look for a good standalone with that. It's not part of a massive framework. I couldn't find one. Hmm. Dogs are very upset. I don't know if they I don't know how much they're coming through on the That's not doing too bad. Consider trying to fix the issue, then OSS it, put on NuGet. Yeah. I mean, that's why I did things like I put the Kafka pieces and stuff on NuGet. Put them up into open source, share them. Tentic, hello, how you doing? Dogs are going nuts. Okay, so this is going to basically be um, tool and a package. I don't much know. Yeah, stressed for interview. Me, I'm stressed for. I've got to go after the stream. I've got to go and get everything ready for having some friends over for 4th of July. So I am stressed, and I'm gonna have to go and do a lot of organizing and cleaning and cooking. .NET Bacon. That is a good tool. Now, if we could get a replicator, that'd work well. Your interview today, Temtic? Sorry, I didn't remember catching you when you were going for the interview and what you're stressed over. So this is var differences equals before dot all dot any it's a C# tool that uses a source generator to inject a Lua script as a string into classes marked with a specific attribute. That script then gets passed into a VP library, which falls into a F# library, which executes the Lua script and prints some random ASCII bacon on the screen. I think as a tech demo, that is an awesome tech demo for an interoperability. Um, that that's amazing. It's like the whole um uh taking a picture on your phone, emailing it, printing it, then faxing it. It's that sort of that chain of events. Ah, that'll happen when Grumpy gets older. Oh, and the fuel schnabel as well. Wow. Okay. Yeah, they took the memes to a maximum. Var added equals um. So this is I've done this so often, and now my brain's going blank on this. After dot any um x goes to I don't know if I know enough to compare this, do I? So after all, let me go. And my brain's drawing a blank. I've done this in my application. No, not in the domain. It's planning. That's what I'm trying to write. At least it knows how to draw. I struggle to even doodle. Yeah, I've got the artistic talent of a piece of bacon. So Temtic, you have your interview in 30 minutes. Nothing to stress over. You know, you know what you know. Relax, enjoy. Remember, you're there because people, if you get into an interview, if you get into a job interview, you are good enough to be in the room or good enough to be in the virtual call, whatever, whichever way you're doing an interview these days, right? Um, they saw something, they liked it, they want to talk to you. So all you have to do is relax and have fun with it. I get that. I understand it. But you're there because they looked at that resume, and they thought, yes, this is someone we definitely want to take a deeper look at. So just have fun, relax. I mean, from a programmer tech perspective, you can use your IDE to put material on a surface. Suppose if we're classing coding as art. Morning, good day, Copper Beanie. How are you doing? Streaming? I don't care. Student job, seeing random people? Meh, don't stress too much. Interview? Again, they're people. They're people. They're just people. Nothing, nothing bad will happen. Nothing crushing is going to happen. If they don't understand something or they don't ask the right questions or you've got it. You're good. Streaming is way harder than an interview. I was talking about my brain. TBD said his brain was drawing a blank. My brain struggles to even doodle a blank. It's a metaphor. Is it will make you stand out in a good way. Figure out a question or three to ask them. That is a good point. I always struggle with questions. Um, what what would you say wrong? What could you possibly say wrong? They're not expecting I assume they're not expecting a 10-year veteran developer to walk in the door, right? Or to join the call. I don't, again, this newfangled world of technology. So relax, have fun with it, do your best, you'll be fine. You can do it. Like there's no yeah. So um this is um coding tests and interviews are not fun. Um Again, like I said, I kind of like the I got asked something yesterday, and I can't really discuss too deeply. But one of the things was, and I saw something on there like, um, software development principles and object-oriented programming, right? And to discuss them, I don't do the best because I'm not an academic developer, right? I don't have a strong grounding in the principles, computer science principles. So I often struggle if people are talking about patterns or talking about techniques or algorithms, etc. I can write code. I can go and I know enough to go and learn and do things. I can achieve, if I'm being arrogant, um, I can I can develop good code. But if I'm asked about certain things, then I'm going to flunk. So I've tried to make sure that doesn't get in my head too much, that I clarify or I like let's talk about something else. I think coding test interview are a bad idea and don't really give a good view of someone's skills. So what I do if I'm interviewing someone, what I do is I send if they're going for a coding job or a development job, I send the person a little coding exercise to do before. They can send me the results, but the code doesn't matter, right? The actual result doesn't matter whether it's not a pass or fail based upon that. I then use that code to talk about, and that's probably because of my background, because of the way I've learned. Let's use that solution. Let's go through that and say, okay, well, how did you find that? What do you think was wrong with it? And I'll deliberately do stuff that's it's kind of silly in there as well. So it's it's intended to be a discussion point rather than a actual you pass or fail. But and I lay it out before that. I don't tell them this is not a coding test as such. It's more of a develop this the way you think you should develop it, and then we can talk about it. I went through university and still struggle with DSA and architecture discussions. Then again, I'm also not a very academic developer either. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of us like that. So I struggle with terminology because I don't read up on it as well. I just kind of like to sit and do the code. I mean, there's probably things I do that I don't know. I do. Asking questions is a good thing, as it will show you're willing to ask questions if you need to know something. That is a very good point, Copper Breedy. Asking questions is definitely not a sign of weakness. And it's a very valuable thing. So Tyndall and Copper Breedy get credit for, you know, ask questions. Definitely get some questions in there, attempt to if you can. I'm so late. All good, my job. Glad you're here. Sorry I couldn't catch your stream last night. I was passed out on the couch. um, oh, I don't mind the code thing before the interview, but actually in the interview, man. Yeah, and that's why I prefer to have conversational interviews, and I prefer to have the idea with the code thing beforehand is to sit down and use that as a reference so that we can talk about um, the same thing in context and see if we can talk. Because that's, again, if I'm working with you, what matters more is that I can talk about code with you. So it's about as good a test as I can do. Back in school, so around the age of dinosaurs, I got told I couldn't use a feature of C++ because the teacher couldn't understand it. How good I was passed out this morning. It can be technical questions like what's the ID in the tools? Yeah, yep, all good things. Yeah, yeah. Don't ask how many days vacation do I get and what's the policy on absences. I think Findle's a bit older than that, but not much. Okay, so C Sharp, ASP.NET, Redis, Kafka, MS SQL, hosted in the basement on your predecessor's laptop. Yeah, full stack. Um, I kind of want to ask you if you get a car after a year or so, but that's because I have an old car and I kind of need a new one. But I'll best not ask. Yeah, asking about perks that I mean, I do know that interviewing in European companies is going to be very different to US companies. Um, but yeah, ask questions that are um, basically. I think of asking questions that show your enthusiasm and your interest. Um, what are the differences between EU and US interviews? I mean, I haven't interviewed in the UK for a long time. Back when I actually started, it wasn't illegal to give an IQ test, or it wasn't so I got an IQ test in my first job. I believe it's illegal now. At least here, you're not allowed to give an IQ test. I'm pretty certain. I don't know whether that's law or just really bad form. Yeah, don't ask about unionizing. Um, I think the working culture as well means that certain things are focused on differently. Like here, um, I know it's not good form to ask any personal questions, but I think that's the same generally now. Europeans, again, don't, they have a different work-life balance. Um, can't ask about medical records. Yeah, I think that would be generally, yeah. I once had to do such IQ test, but I declined it. Simply I didn't have time to do such tests back then. Right, but as part of a job interview, I don't know if that's still allowed in Europe. I don't know, but definitely when I did an IQ test in my first job. The funny thing is, I got the job, but not because I passed the IQ test. I got the job because my solutions to the IQ test were imaginative. So I think I didn't do great on the IQ test. 'Cause but my my abstract approaches to some of the solutions were exactly what my boss was looking for. So it's probably what inspired my whole idea with the way that I do the coding sample test. So he was like, no one did the IQ test like you did. Um, yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a lot of things that are definitely globally at this point in at least European and US culture. There's things that are completely irrelevant to whether you can perform the job, right? Um, I just think the working cultures probably changed the interviews in some respects. Um, like with the US, are you willing to work extra hours? Are you willing to work on weekends? Those sorts of things I don't see a lot of in UK jobs. Um, they're not upfront things, and there's those sorts of things that we do. Um, two IQ tests, one with Mensa, didn't join it, feels like a club for patting each other on the back and telling each other how smart you are, and one with a shrink. Yeah. I know I'm not that smart that I could get anywhere near Mensa. Um, but I've been seeing a lot of German stuff come up. I don't know why, but I know that we kind of got on this conversation today, right? With the whole um, introvert, introverted, and personal information sharing in stand-ups and stuff, right? Um, the Germans, the German culture definitely seems one more of getting the job done and calling it a day. Like overtime, no, there's not such a concept, etc. So I would imagine that changes the way that people interview and the people to approach their jobs. In the UK, where they cannot even ask if you're a cream or jam on top of your scone post. Yeah. Say that over here. Asking about overtime is something the employer would ask, not the other way around. Yeah, overtime isn't so for me as a salaried employee. I get paid what I get paid. If I have to work 50 hours, I still get paid the same as I work 40 hours. It's expected of me if the job requires it to do the hours that I need to do. Um, do you do flexible hours? Yeah, I think that's kind of that sort of thing is not something I would ask about flexible time. I just kind of if I've got expected hours, like I would ideally I would love to work the hours I need to work, right? Like get the job done. What job do I need to do? Okay, get the job done. Not about slacking off a little bit, right? But meetings and whatnot. There's set hours of work. Having the flexibility to go do other things. If a manager's like, yeah, knock off a couple of hours early, it's fine. It's a holiday, etc. I think that should be at their discretion. Uh, so this is removed equals um, before dot where not after dot contains, oh no, that needs to be B goes to B. Bar added equals after except before I don't know if this is going to work correctly, but we'll see. If not removed.any and not added.any, return null, else return generate change value property. Sorry. I don't know if that's going to work properly. We'll see. We'll finish this up and then talk about that stuff. Oh man. So what I want to do here is I want to first get the method equals type of change. Hey, Kanye, how you doing? So what I need to do right now is I need to get an instance of this class, right? I need to get the method, get method from m in where m.name equals compare lists and m dot is generic method, right? Because there's two methods called compare lists, the non-generic and the generic one, right? So it's m dot singular default. I want it to crash. If it can't find that method, I'm in trouble. Well, thank you very much for the. That's a candy flower. Nice. That's a nice emote. You do big. Thank you. So we get the method, and then we're gonna do var generic method. Because then we take that method, we say make generic method, and then it's going to be property info dot property type, and then we're going to do return generic method dot invoke, and we're going to pass in property info before and after. Oh, we need this. We need to invoke it on this instance of the object. I'm ahead of the interview. Temtic, have fun. Do your best. And let us know what the result is. Or how it went. How you feel it went. Reaches a bottle of luck and fortune to Temtic. Hands. Don't worry. You got it. You crush it. If you need references, just send them to Twitch. I'm sure we can all back you up. Yeah, you hand a bottle of luck or hands a bottle of luck. Yeah. Hands over. Yeah, that's another way. Throws a bottle of luck and fortune at Tempty. So what we're going to do here is we're basically going to say, so what I need to do is do yield return on this, right? That needs to go away now. And then else. Now we get into this situation. Ugh. Um, I think this might actually work. Compare lists. This is property, comma, before and after. Reaches were just one-to-one. Nice. Okay. So let's see what that does now. So that should crash. Oh, it didn't outright fail, but then it might not got there. So let's do, because I didn't do, because it's a now and I enumerable. So I'm not enumerating it because I'm not asking for the changes, right? So now we need to do changes.dump. So that might look like it worked, but it didn't work because of that. Okay, so get methods. Binding flags dot non-public binding flags dot instance. Does that change the behavior? Late bound operations cannot be on the types which contains generic parameters. It's true. Late bound operations cannot be performed on types and methods. That's why I'm trying to do that. I'm here to procrastinate my Angular world stuff. I'll do it for you if you want. What does that mean? Late bound operations. Late bound operations cannot be performed. It's late bound. Calling generic method using reflection. You're not making use of. Well, John Skeet answered it, so you're not using the result of make generic method. I am. Invoke service. Did I reverse these? Hold on. No, this and parameters. That's right. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the method, right? And this gives me this method here, right? I'm then taking the result of that and making a generic method call. So now I'm saying, okay, it's going to be a type of GUID. On types or methods. Methods for which late binding exception calling. Okay, your first coin. That's not right. Make generic method. Oh, of course. This property type is not. This property type is IEnumerable of. I need to make. I need to get the underlying type because I'm getting an IEnumerable of T. So that's why that's not binding, because now this is making a generic method of IEnumerable, and that's not binding because it now can't figure out what T is again. So I need to get the underlying type. Which I've already figured out, right? So generic argument, generic argument. What is that? That is a type. So type. So that's actually that. No. Debug. I can use debugging here. Let's make sure that things are as I think they are. So generic method is compare lists of GUID. Yep, it'll take two lists of GUID. So this is GUID. This is fine. And I'm going to invoke that method. So it's got the method, right? It knows that that's the one I want. It's a non-public instance method. What am I doing wrong? Late bound operations. Late bound operations. Non-generic method gets completely turned away. We don't have. Reflection invoke does not check contains generic parameters. I've done this so much. I'm like, I know I've done this. Mediator outbox, new window. So the outbox, to do what it does, it needs to go through and build and to be able to invoke commands. But the problem is when you are working with generics, but you need to build a generic on the fly, you can't just pass objects and have it figure it out all the time. So sometimes you need to tell it, here's the exact type I'm actually invoking. So the outbox service here will do something similar. So I get the method. Well, that's just confusing because that's exactly what I'm doing. I get the type, I get the method, which is this one. Non-public, it's the exact same code. That's not changing that behavior though, is it? So the only difference there is I'm not sending. That's not going to make a difference, right? Because that's the same thing. Yeah. Just newer syntax, right? That's a new array populated with these values. Now here's a new collection syntax. That's the fine. That's okay. Generic type. We compare lists of type. And then we get the generic method. And we invoke it. They are the right type anyway. But I don't get why. Why does that work? Type of get method. So that's just a cleaner way of doing that, right? Instead of having that do name of compare lists. That's just taking actually that's that. Now it does want to be back there, actually. But that's how I did it in the past because I call on the same method. I just have a generic and a non-generic version. That's okay. So the only confusing thing is That's the difference. What I get the type of. This dot get type. Ah, interesting. Okay. So let's put this one back. Yeah. Okay. That works. So instead of getting a type of, why would that matter? Because in reality, the method is the same. I know why. It's because it can't figure out. So this is what I was doing was generalizing it, right? So when I was going in here, I said on any type of change, generic change, go and get the method and then invoke that on this. But this wasn't castable to the method of type change of anything. So by doing this, I'm actually saying call this on an object that looks like that actually looks like the thing that you've got the method from. So the method info was created from the right object type, not the general type. I believe that's what's going on there. So that's what the late bound meant. Um, okay, that makes more sense. That's the difference I was doing. So in the other one, I've got the actual type because I've got this is fine. Okay, so that works. So that determined that so let's take this, copy that out there. So now if I create an empty list, that should cost as a change. Yep, so after, if I add this in, actually if I add this in there, oh, read that pass. Yep, it knows that changed. If I now take that one here and add this after this, yep, nothing changed. So the ordering doesn't matter, the fact that they're in there. So now we've got the comparison on GUIDs. Let's just make sure, double check that that does work. Annual int flags, say. I don't think I have many cases of integers coming through because again, most of these are going to be GUIDs anyway. Now let's do flags equals 146. I know that's not even close to good. There's flags. Flags equals 1. Yep. Do 4, 1, 6. Yep, it determines they're the same. Okay, so we can compare GUIDs and integers lists. That's a good step. Okay, let's get up on 9:30. So I do have to finish on time. Well, not on time. I'm already well over time. Bees. Good timing. I guess I'm going to continue on with what I was doing for a few minutes. Restricted. How's everyone doing? Hopefully well. Welcome in, Beaks. Thank you very much for the raid. How was the stream? Why are you restricted? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a day off work today. Yeah, I'm trying to fix that hectic. Um, Something has flagged you. Um, in temp extreme. So it's limiting you in here because Temtic and I share. There you go. You should be good now. I didn't do anything there, but it's now. Language in here. um, no worries. I get it. I don't know what it is, but yeah. You might want to have a word with Temtic. Um, gotcha. Okay. So because we share ban lists, it flagged you. So Biggs, what were you doing today? I didn't get to catch your stream this morning. How's things going? For me, I am working on my main platform thing. What I've been working on is changes right now. So I'm kind of focused on this whole platform thing. And what I'm focused on is kind of figuring out when I get data coming through the system, calculating what changed. So that's what my focus has been today, building a little sample code to test objects and compare them. Working on a game jam entry, arguing about pizza parts and interfaces. Pizza politics, i.e., pineapple on pizza, that sort of politic, or why fish is wrong on pizza. So, welcome in everyone. I do work on some game stuff on Mondays and Tuesdays. I actually have been learning more about game dev, um, doing Godot, which has been a lot of fun. But my main focus is this large application for project management and tracking. So um, this is what I've been working on uh, today. I would have welcomed the pineapple debate. It was so much worse. Oh no. Oh dear. Oh dear. So, yeah, what I've been working on today is kind of comparing these objects because I need to calculate what changed. So I'm saying, okay, well, the values changed, the date changed, the lists changed. Sorry to read and run, but I have to go and eat and vote. Important things. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Thank you very much for the raid. Have a great rest of your day and enjoy your food. Deep dish is just lasagna. You too. Take care. Um, so for all those joining, by the way, tomorrow on stream, so I'm going to run probably about as long as I am doing today, tomorrow at least. I'm going to run a stream focused on Q&A. So I'm going to open up the Discord. People are more than welcome to join in the Discord to ask questions about the technologies I'm using, the techniques I'm using, if they have architectural questions in general about things that we could use, technologies, just generally open it up as a Q&A session to try and get a to open up the opportunity for people to ask more pointed questions about what I'm building because I build this on stream, and it might look simplistic, and overall, it is quite simplistic right now. But there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of technologies involved. I'm embracing um, a lot of different techniques in building this application, and it is a larger project at this point. So there's like 51 projects in here. It uses distributed systems. It's got Kafka. It's got Service Bus. It's got um, GraphQL, SQL Server. I'm using Angular for the front end and all .NET for the back end. So there's a lot of different pieces. So tomorrow, be running a Q&A stream. But for today, I got to figure out if I can do this before I have to go and start getting food ready for this afternoon. So what we just got working is we validated two lists of stuff. What I need to do now is public class child object, right? So let's do public string name, public int value, right? So I don't have many instances where I have a child object just attached. This will also count for lists. It's more likely to count for lists, in fact, but let's test it on child object first. Child. So here, child equals new child, name equals Bob1, value equals 1. And on here, let's do child equals new child. Now, being that I'm comparing these based upon their value, not their reference, that's going to be an important piece here because I don't want to. I don't need to make sure that they are the same object. I need to make sure their values are different. And how do I represent that appropriately, right? Ultimately, what this is going to feed to is the way my application stack's meant to work, which may or may not start. We'll find out. I've had some real issues with this the last couple of days. But the way this is intended to work is you create your what AI do you use? I'm using Rider here because see, could not copy. Something is locking up those files. Oh, for the child object. This is a LinkPad. LinkPad is a good place for prototyping. Heading out to do my exercise and I'll see you on the morrow. One Line, thank you very much for coming and hanging out today. Appreciate it. If you haven't seen One Line before, One Line is also a streamer. And he streams Monday, Wednesday, Friday right now. And on Fridays, he does a community day, which is a great place to go and hang out. Awesome stream to be in. Really chill and just generally great place with some smart people in chat. Yeah, this is LinkPad. I use LinkPad. So LinkPad is I use the paid version because I'm getting IntelliSense and stuff. But basically, it's a way of prototyping some code without having a full program running, etc. So it allows me to like you saw, dump out objects. Did that compare them? No. Okay. It's just because they're not equal to each other. That's why it registered that. But the good news is it did flag it as changed. So I can't, for some reason, I can't. I have to restart the machine and stuff. But to get rid of some file locks, it looks like. But the idea of the application is that you are, I'm starting from planning. Ultimately, I want to build like a Jira, but basically, you create a planning item. A planning item is a description and a set of requirements and things like that. So you track these things. And what I want to do is provide a solid notification system so people can subscribe to finding out information that's changing in the system. So I can say, hey, I want to know if a planning item appears for a project. I want to know if a review date is changed on a thing. I want to know so the system can be more intelligent and people can be told about things they care about. I do not know why this is going so badly wrong. Something has stopped everything. I've cleaned, I've deleted, I've done all sorts, so we'll find out. But yeah, so that's the goal of the project, and is to build this more intelligent system where people can actually be told about information rather than requiring developers to say, oh yeah, that product, that item, yeah, I worked on that last week. I don't know where it is right now. As it goes through processes, as it goes through paths, as things get updated on it, the system will tell people. That's the idea. So what I'm trying to figure out is, first I need to tell people what changed, and then I need to tell people in the way that they want to be told. Right. So, notification overload is a real thing, right? Because we we don't want to be bombarded with, oh, this thing changed, this thing changed, this thing changed, right? So being able to be more intelligent and say, okay, by the way, I want to get a daily email of things that were done. I want to get a notification if this thing, specifically this thing, goes past a certain point, or I want a notification if anything under this tag gets, past a certain point, so that people can be more intelligent about uh, rather not be more intelligent, but people can be more specific about things that they're told, and hopefully cut down on that notification noise and provide a cleaner system in that respect. Also, ultimately providing dashboards and things to tell people where things lie, so that you don't have to go and ask a developer, right? Because I want to get to a world where the developer can go off and develop the software without having to worry about things they've already worked on and are out of their responsibility. Um, yeah. So what I'm doing now is doing the comparison. So comparing two objects is um, complicated, to say the least, because I'm going to compare them. I'm going to reflect over them. I'm going to look at the actual. Again, I'm comparing values, not comparing type references. So if they were the same, if I thought they were the same object and I was just comparing references, then that would be a little easier. But I need to compare and deal with different types of things. So again, these are lists of values. I can compare A to B, right? So I have that code. But now I need to compare an object. So it's not a generic type. Else if type is class, is that enough? Let's find out. Then for each var change in compare same entity types. Oh, var change equals new change. Ads are about to start. It looks like I do run ads every 30 minutes so that people get pre-rolls turned off. So I apologize if that affects you. Okay. So let's just do it. So what I need to do here is I need to build a new change. But I don't know enough information, right? So I got to do a bit more reflection again. And this reflection so far, by the way, I mean, it might seem like it's a lot and it's a bit expensive, but the actual runtime on this is 0.005 seconds. So I'm not racking up a significant cost in terms of time. And the changes itself, the reason I'm not doing them in real time, on the object that I build, right? So the API updates the object, it publishes an integration event. That integration event is what I'll be comparing. So we're saying, okay, here's what I had, here's what I have, what's different, right? So this data store here might actually end up being Mongo or Couchbase or something like that, because a NoSQL DB is probably appropriate here because I can just pull a single entity by an identifier. But I'm going to compare the objects here. So it doesn't matter if this takes a few seconds even. I expect it not to do, but it, 0.005 seconds is not going to stop the world. But the changes can process and be slightly delayed. The notifications, yeah, it'd be nice to know immediately, but we're not talking about hours or days. And I would imagine that most people aren't going to want to receive most notifications in real time. There's very rare occurrences where they'd want to receive a real-time notification over a delayed notification. But offering the ability to do that is going to allow me to be able to put metrics in there and understand how people are using that system. Right. People may revert to the old way anyway of ask a developer. So if I have public abstract class, actually public interface I change, which has a so let's get rid of this method for right a second. I'm actually not going to do that. Which essentially means I don't need to do anything else, but we'll figure that out after. IEnumerable of I change value. Fetch changes. Object. Source. Object. Import. And then this one's going to go right down there, isn't it? Yeah. So this is an explicit implementation. So only when I'm dealing with it as an I change is this going to do this, and then we're going to do return fetch changes t source t input. Well, probably do some better naming there. So that's just an explicit. I'm going to cast them. I'm going to trust that whatever I'm passing is going to work. That will allow me to make sure that this can return an I change. Build change for type, generate type. It's both input and it's both types. So I'm going to just trust it for right this second. Var. So this comes back down to our constructor stuff before, right? So what we're doing here is this is a change, right? And that's going to be make generic type, generic type, generic type. And then constructor, it's an anonymous constructor. It's a default constructor, so we don't need to worry about anything else. It's not default constructor, is there? Then we invoke the constructor. Get constructor binding. So again, the purpose of this stream, by the way, is not one of productivity. So if you have questions about what I'm doing, if you have thoughts or opinions on what I'm trying to do, you're more than welcome to share them. I'm happy to discuss what I'm building, and yeah, it's that work? No, it just needs to be I changed, doesn't it? That doesn't matter. No. Fish on pizza. You want to discuss fish on pizza? It's wrong. Build change for type. And this is going to be the type, right? And then we're going to do for each var. Agreed, carry on. There we go. For each, this isn't changed. Let's just change in change tracker dot fetch changes before and after. Yield, return, change. I think there's a way of returning a yield return on enumerable. I just forget how to do that off the top of my head. Parameter count mismatch. Wah wah. It got in here. Did it get in here for? It did. Interesting. Oh, there we go. Huh. Fetch changes. So fetch changes does compare same entity type. So we get into here the first time. A T source is widget. Then we get there. And now we go into compare same entity types where T source is child object. So let's go in here. Get in there. Type is string. So our property is. I don't think I can. I can't zoom in this bottom window, so I apologize if it's tiny. But the name on this is name, and this is a child object. So after, right? So they do differ. That's why the type is a string. I'm not being general enough. It should get in here, but what I need to do is let's go here the first time and we'll analyze what type looks like because string is an object and a class. And that's why I'm failing there. So type. So is class is true. I can't remember. There's a way of is type definition. So if we go in here again, right, and we get in there now. Now this is string, and that's not right. So type system string. So I've got is class still, right? So it is still a class. Is sealed, is type definition true. So they match on that. So that's a challenge I've got to overcome. But right, if not, if type of I'll do this. If not, it's hacky, but I'm trying to get to a point, right? So yeah, there we go. So the challenge there is the nested object. It did calculate the differences, but it yielded them as the change of that type. Hey, Black Arrow, how are you doing? So that creates an issue because now I don't know the difference between my top level property and my bottom level property. So I need to create some sort of nested type. I'm editing right now. Jesus, edit. Editing. Uh, yeah, there's definitely a better way of doing that one. Basically, all I'm doing is creating a list of types that I want to ignore and move on from. But again, that creates what I should do is probably come up with some design of okay, there's a nested object, therefore this has changed. Um, yeah, yeah, probably end up with a change value for nested property and kind of put a name on there, and then that is actually a list of changes or something like that, so that I can say that the object changed at the top level, but because then I'd say here I would say child, and then it'd show here's the values as they were, and here's the values as they are now. And just calculate because calculating that they changed is enough, and then I can use the name, and then basically there'd be nested property name before after. Mm, that's the problem. I can't do nested. Yeah, not everything kind of comes out cleanly as a property. But anyway, okay. So unfortunately, I do have to get on with my day today. Again, tomorrow, if you are around from 7 till 10, I will be doing a community day where we can go through any questions you have on the platform that I'm building, any questions you have on the technologies I've chosen, or technology test questions in general that you might want to discuss. You're more than welcome to stop by. I'll open up the Discord. People can join in. There are some rules, right? This isn't about diverting it towards your project or whatever. It's about general concepts and questions. So it's, giving people the time to ask questions is necessary. I don't want to focus it on any one person's project. If no one's talking, if no one wants to join in, I will just continue coding as normal. So that will be the plan. So that is the goal. So please check out the Discord for information if you want to know more, if you want to have any questions answered before then. So we're going to raid over to sorcery. I'm going to go look over there while I go and get my backyard ready for some guests this afternoon. I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining me. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Bye all. And I still didn't create the screen. So maybe this weekend I'll get that screen created. So I'm ready for next time. Take care. Bye.